The NYPD has a lot to deal with. Now, just last year, as you may remember, Commissioner Bratton famously said tensions between police and the communities have not been this bad since going back to the 70s. And now that the cops just inked a new contract giving them only a 1% raise, many of the men and women in blue are upset. Now, whenever there is a big issue involving cops, Pat Lynch seems to be right in the middle of it. And a short time ago, our own Dominic, he spoke to the outspoken president of the PBA.
Mr. President, what is the morale of the police department, your officers currently? I'm talking about police community relations.
Police community relations, when you go out into our neighborhood, some of the busiest precincts in the neighborhood, some of the toughest precincts in the neighborhood in those high crime neighborhoods, as well as those more affluent neighborhoods, you'll find out that the people on the street support what New York City police officers do each and every day. You know, when we hear the narrative that police community relations is terrible, let's leave the corner where the demonstration is, and let's go to the corner where the grocery store is and talk to the folks that are going off to religious services or going just to buy a container of milk and standing there talking to the police officers.
On the subject of morale, the mayor and the police commissioner have talked about the high-tech gadgets, tablets, iPhones, and also adding more cops to say those are indicative signs that morale is definitely improving.
Those are tools that the department and City Hall has an obligation to give us. They have an obligation to give us a vest to protect us from bullets that are shot at us. They have an obligation to give us the tools to go after and chase after the criminal element on the street, what we're paid to do. But that doesn't bring up morale. It helps us do our job. But it doesn't bring up morale. What brings up morale in the New York City Police Department is to feel supported, to have a mayor that says they support us, and then after saying the words, supports us in real action. When this city had an opportunity to pay New York City police officers as professionals, they decided to say no. Now, they like to say, look, they went to arbitration. That's what happens in arbitration. We're in arbitration because City Hall said no, the work you do only deserves 0 raises. That's an insult to New York City police officers. How our morale goes up is to feel supported, be able to go home and take care of our families with a decent livable wage, and be able to talk with our counterparts in the surrounding counties that get paid as professionals and say, we're treated as professionals too. But instead, they insist on saying, you know what, cops, you're the same as everybody else. And I never say that we're better than anyone else, but we're different than other folks. We're asked to do a different and dangerous job, and we should be treated differently. We should be treated as professionals, and we should be paid as professionals.
When you talk about the issue of terrorism, and God forbid a Paris-type attack happening here, the department with much hype has talked about the new special unit that they have to deal with terrorism. But NYPD officers, as you have said, in all likelihood will be the first to respond to such an encounter. Now, you have said that every unit should be a rolling anti-terrorism unit. What does that actually mean?
What that means is, God forbid something happens in a mall or on one of the cafes on one of our busy streets or school or any of those different terrible, terrible, tragic stories we hear from across the country. If something happens there, it's the sector car, it's the 2 police officers that patrol your neighborhood. They'll be the first man and woman wearing a uniform that'll show up. They should be equipped right then and there to neutralize the threat, because we're trained to go right in, neutralize that threat. But in order to do that, we need the equipment right away to be able to do that. So we should be training and equipping every police officer, and especially those first responding units. It also rolls into another problem. Besides not having the equipment, the staffing issue we have in the NYPD. We don't have enough police officers to continually effectively do the job of the increased threat of terrorism that's oh so real here in New York City, as well as going after traditional crimes. What the department at City Hall likes to say is, look, we're starting this new unit and we're going to put 100 or so police officers in this unit and equip them. The question that should be asked is, well, where is it those police officers are coming from? If we're short-staffed as we sit here and speak, and they're creating a new unit with new obligations and responsibilities. Where are the bodies, where are the members, the men and women in uniform coming from? Well, they're coming from your neighborhood precinct. They're coming from the sector cars that respond to your 911 call. So we have to do a number of things. We have to equip every one of our police officers, especially our first responders, to be able to neutralize that threat. And on top of that, we need to increase the staffing, so we do a number of things. Neutralize that threat, respond to your 911 calls, whether it's an aided case or something as mundane as some noise on the corner and you want us to investigate, as well as go after traditional crime. So our responsibilities are going up. Well, our staffing needs to go up as well, and we're not keeping up. In this business in crime fighting, if you allow it to go bad for too long, too quickly, you won't be able to get it back. It's not like making widgets. We need 100, give me 100 more. You have to go out, you have to recruit, investigate, train the candidates that want to become New York City police officers. 6 months in the police academy, 6 months in field training before you have a fully trained New York City police officers. You can't do that overnight. Our benchmark, and you hear a lot of folks talking, well, it's not 1992. Our benchmark shouldn't be the worst of times. Our benchmark should be the best of times. We should be trying to reduce crime from our best year, not our worst year.
So you want every police car in New York City to have an assault-type weapon?
We should have ballistic helmets, high-capacity long guns. We should have vests that protect us from high-caliber weaponry that's being used against us. Why do we say that? Because that's what's happening. You see it around the world. That's where the terrorists are going. They're coming in groups. They're going where you don't know what's going to happen, and it happens instantaneously. And the first ones that respond are the sector car, the precinct personnel who aren't equipped. If you look out in California, when those police officers started rolling up, they had long guns, they had vests, they had ballistic helmets. We should have the same, because I'm telling you, if we get equipped, get the staffing and the training, we'll be able to do this job like no other.
When we come back, the panel's going to come in and talk about what we just heard from Pat Lynch and also where the NYPD goes from here. Stay with us.